Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Richard Risby and I chair the British Ukrainian Society, and I'm delighted to welcome 230 people to this webinar this evening. The timing of it is absolutely excellent because we have Ambassador Vadym Prystaiko who will be speaking this evening. This is somebody who has been an enormously successful diplomat for Ukraine in a number of countries, and of course, more latterly was foreign minister. But we are absolutely delighted that he brings all that experience to London as the ambassador. And of course, he played a hugely significant role in the most successful visit of President Zelenskyy last week. So His Excellency will be speaking this evening about that visit and making other general observations before taking questions. And of course, that is about the agreement which was made bilaterally on trade. We both committed to free trade and security and defense matters. So Ambassador, I've got to see you several times in the last few weeks. We're really just delighted that you are representing Ukraine here in the United Kingdom, and we look forward to what you have to say. But before we move on to that, I have another very important announcement to make. That last week, the Prime Minister nominated as his trade envoy in Ukraine, Catherine Meyer. Now, Lady Meyer, who's a colleague of mine in the House of Lords, is very well known for her amazing activities in charitable endeavor, but very specifically child protection and advocacy, something which she is greatly admired for. She was in Washington when her husband was British ambassador there, and I know that she will be a very important part of building our bilateral relationship further. She will be proposing a vote of thanks at the end of this webinar. And finally, just on housekeeping, Megan is controlling the events for the webinar this evening, and she's told me to say the following. Please type your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and you will be prompted to turn on your camera and microphone if your question is chosen. Your Excellency, thank you again for this very timely webinar. We very much look forward to what you have to say.
Dear Sir, Lord Risby, Ma'am, both of you are very modest. You did mention that you played also so many different roles during this visit, and I'm grateful to you personally, both of you, and to everybody from the British side to help us have this, I can call it historic visit. It's not just because we called it this way, although embassies, quite a number of us already went to the sick leave, but some of us holding on here, and I'm joined by my colleagues. If you have any trade, economic issues, related issues, I have Taras with us. He will be able to respond to the issues if we come to the details, hopefully not. What I'd like to tell you that this visit was described by Ukrainian media rather than just by embassy as a quite historic one. Media and experts were sharing this view, and we have something to prove that's not just the words. First of all, this was a visit when we were lacking many years already, the visits and the connections on the highest possible level. This was a one-of-a-kind visit when we had to see, and we had this possibility and chance to see everybody, starting with the royal family, Prime Minister, Speaker of the Parliament, and many ministers and cabinet ministers, businesses, Lord Mayor of City, and from Ukrainian side as well. The president brought the full plane of cabinet ministers. Also, we have to still keep in mind that it was done in the midst of COVID limitations. And I'm very happy that we found a way how we managed such a group of people, very distinguished ones. We had at least Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Defense, Minister of Internal Affairs, Minister of Finance, NBU governor, so National Bank governor. So many people came to be able to take the part in the negotiations. Some of them were doing it with the president and went on the meetings with the prime minister and the cabinet ministers. Some of them were doing it on their own, met with their colleagues, presenting the spheres where they're working. Just in a couple of minutes, I will give you we'll take stock of what's been actually achieved, and I hope that we will have more time for the discussion, and maybe we will come to details if they are needed and will be asked by our participants. The first of all, what is important to stress out from the very beginning, that since this visit, we call our relations a strategic partnership, which is already written in a big treaty, been signed by the Prime Minister and the President of Ukraine. This is great honor because there's one of the biggest by Britain leaving the European Union, because as of now we are lacking this big treaty between our two nations. Part of the agreement, we have almost a separate free trade, which is, we will come to this in a couple of minutes, to the details. 2.5 billion pounds in credit. Half of it will go to the Navy to rebuild the Ukrainian Navy, to allow us to have soon new naval bases, and we'll start building up the fleets both in Great Britain and in Ukraine. On very many different of these issues were coinciding in time with one another, but what's also important is the program of First Lady, which also was playing a very significant role in the visit. We came and we had the chance to discuss the gender equality issues, the cultural program. We even signed the agreement with the Tower of London. So since the new year, Ukrainians will be able to listen to the huge heritage which is preserved in Tower of London in Ukraine. That's a very good initiative. We started already with different other institutions here in Great Britain. So just a couple of things, starting with the more details in economy. What's been achieved, which is most important, that the 98% of goods are covered now by free trade agreement between Ukraine and UK. We managed to cover the continuity of the trade. So whatever has been between you and the European Union, and whatever we are planning to do with European Union, we already safeguarded our bilateral relations in trade. We will have better market access, and I hope that our, and even stronger than it is right now. So what Ukraine in a more practical, secure right now, that we will have the same quotas which the European Union, but on a bilateral basis. Frankly speaking, we also managed quotas which belonged before to UK in the whole European Union trade. About this quota, sometimes they are not fulfilled yet, but there is opportunity for our companies to come to Great Britain. We are talking here about almost 14% of our quotas in European Union. On some positions, we will be able to increase it to 20%. Important, not as significant, but very important to us, that we managed also to agree with your team that in 2 years, if we manage to improve the whole quotas and the regime, we'll be able to rethink and renegotiate. So this is just in 2 years, our negotiation teams will sit again at the table and discuss how our trade is going on. We will establish the special strategic partnership commission, sitting together each and every year, being able to discuss where our on the credit which I mentioned, 2.5 billion, as we already agreed, the half of it will go to the Ukrainian defense sector, mostly Navy. The second half is 1.25 billion pounds will go to promote the cooperation, culture, infrastructure, energy and healthcare. Just a couple of words. Culture, we hope that Britain will find another good partner with areas of quality and taste in agricultural products, but being out of European Union. So we'll be able to promote what we are now doing in Ukraine, big construction. We have the plans to build many infrastructural projects, roads, ports. Some ports will go in concession. We have already your companies bidding for the concession for the management of the Ukrainian ports in the south of Ukraine. Energy and healthcare. Healthcare is important for everybody. for you, for us, for the whole world. We do believe that Great Britain will produce the vaccine and tests which are very needed in Ukraine. We even agreed between Prime Minister and the President of Ukraine that some funds from this credit will go to procure vaccine what is out of the testing cycle. So this is very cheap money, I have to tell you. If somebody will come with numbers, right now I can tell you that this is for 10 years, and for first 3 years we will have the break, so we will be able to start repaying just in 3 years, which is extremely important to Ukraine at this moment when we have to juggle so many things at the same time. Don't forget that by this agreement we will be able to promote and merchandise trade as well, but which is even more important for Ukraine and Great Britain is the service. The service provides the UK service is representing 10% of everything Ukraine receives as import of services from all nations in the globe. So each and every $10 which we are paying for the foreign services are coming to Great Britain. That's very important to us. We believe that this is something we have to build upon, and that's where the meeting in the London Stock Exchange and the City of London comes. Very important. We, on top of the many agreements which have been already achieved, and the Governor of National Bank was doing his thing, the Minister of Finance was doing whatever been agreed upon, but we even came with the idea of having in Ukraine something very similar to what you have in the City of London, but very new to Ukraine, the city of Kiev. This is not just declaring buildings and the straight roads and businesses being able to live somewhere. This is important to have, like, if almost unique municipality within Ukrainian capital. We will try to go with the judicial system, locally organized municipal police, and so on services, and so on and so forth. With the help of your City of London and the specialists, we hope to be able to build something very close, but without repeating the mistakes which probably been done by you in many centuries the City of London is existing. I'm very happy to again, after the Lord Risby, to announce again that now we have the trade envoy for Ukraine. Ma'am, it's honor to have you with us. I just hope that Ukrainians, and we discussed it already with our parliament, that Ukrainians will be able to come with the same idea. We will find members of parliament who will be able to become a sort of focus of all our efforts in our development of our cooperation with the Great Britain. Just a couple of words on the parliamentarians and the connections between parliaments. Lord Risby was one of those who were taking part in our meetings with the members of parliament who came with the president. Two of these gentlemen, they were representing the Ukrainian British Parliamentary Friendship Group. I believe this was very fruitful discussion. I have to tell you that we've been quite perplexed when we found out that the last time the Speaker of the British Parliament was in Ukraine was 20 years ago. Now we handed over the invitation from our Speaker, and I hope that the head of Parliament here will be able to go and visit Ukrainians and really to reinforce our great relations which we already have. If you believe that we will be able to start explaining one to another, just the one thing I'd like to outline, which was very important, and we spent the whole day to Portsmouth Naval Base. This was extremely important to us. We landed on the aircraft carrier, the newest one, which engineering of the Great Britain managed to provide to their military. We've been happy to see it. At the same time, we now trying to understand how we can get something very close to it. Starting with the small ships which we will be building in Ukraine, but then going step by step and managing our cooperation close. You've probably seen as the paratroopers from Great Britain managed all their way to Ukraine and took part in the joint exercises. And they're going right now. The orbital the operation, which is about the supporting Ukrainian Navy and Ukrainian armed forces, is still going on. We've been told by Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense that this is something the Great Britain will be keeping on doing. And on the political side of the defense, what's been discussed, just I'm throwing it for the discussion right now, that we discussed with Great Britain, with your Prime Minister, that Ukraine is still going and looking for the membership action plan within NATO. We are building up upon success which has been achieved with your support in achieving the enhanced opportunity partner status. Next step is membership action plan for Ukraine. I hope that's something we can discuss further and can achieve. Yes, sir. I will stop here if you don't mind, and then we'll be able to go ahead with the questions. Thank you.
Megan, can you hear me? No.
Yes, we have our first question from Michael Polek.
Hello. I don't know if you can see me. Welcome, Ambassador to England. Вітаю вас щиро з українців тут. Is there anything more that the English government can do to help Ukraine in this current situation that's going on in eastern Ukraine? I refer to the illegal war.
Thank you. Just in a couple of words, what's been already discussed, not only on the prime ministerial and presidential level, on different spheres. One of the things that Foreign Affairs and now Minister of Foreign Affairs discuss how we can jointly reinforce the so-called. This is the international mechanism which we are trying to establish. Hopefully, will allow us to deoccupy Crimea at the end of the days. This is the open sort of place where we can discuss how we at the end at the 20 resolve issues without shooting and killing each other, and hopefully reinforce the international law and return the situations to the status quo before Russia decided to take over and try to occupy the Crimea in 2014. This is one of the things. Then the British side also confirmed that the support is here for Ukrainian sovereignty and our independence, which will be reinforced by the extension of our cooperation in defense, as well as exchange of information, the security and intelligence. I just forgot to mention that we also had the chief of the Ukrainian Special Services with us, and he had his own meetings with MI6 and other intelligence community, and I represent all intelligence communities here. I'm sorry, but we exchange information. We're doing things together. Probably it was announced that Ukrainian Special Services and the British ones counterfeit cigarettes in the history. It's been a very close cooperation. We hope the things as simple and as important as going with the occupation of Crimea will be developing. Thank you.
Our next question is from Tatiana Birch.
Hello?
Tatiana, can you unmute your microphone, please?
Okay, sorry. Well, is it better now? Well, do you hear me? Sorry. Oh, hello, everybody. The familiar faces. Well, so happy to see you. Well, all sort of wealthy, healthy, and with the prospects for the future. I actually wrote a few words, but I can say it just now myself. So, well, I hope you know that the Chernobyl Relief Foundation was founded by the Ukrainian embassy. And for more than 20 years, I worked with the 6 ambassadors, and together with Megan, the Association of the Ukrainians, and with the British Ukrainian Association. So, and I would be happy to introduce the work of the Chernobyl Foundation to Ambassador. And if you tell me what is the attitude of the government for the moment to Chernobyl issues, because, well, it didn't disappear anywhere. So we are ready to continue, we are continuing. So, and it would be nice to know when I can introduce to you the activities and the projects of Chernobyl Foundation.
Thank you very much. It's a bit out of our today's discussion, but I would be happy to share with you just a couple of things. First of all, be happy to meet and understand how can we enrich what the activities which have been already done by the foundation in cooperation with the embassy and Ukraine. Second, I'd like to tell you that with the international effort, and there was a huge effort of everybody, we managed finally to enclose the Chernobyl nuclear station in a safe environment and safe sarcophagus. I was very honored to be at the moment when this thing, which is, by the way, the biggest the humanity ever built in our history, which it was rolled over in the course of almost a month. It was very slowly moving to encase this damaged reactor. Now, at least this part of the job of international effort is finished. Now we can disassemble the old structure, which is radioactive and will be radioactive for thousands of years, and bury it somewhere. We already prepared. The site is totally optimized. So it's. We hope that will bring the effect to the nature to its minimum. Now we have to understand what we are doing with the 30 kilometers in radius, the excursion zone in the center of Ukraine and center of Europe. How we can return life to this part, what sorts of ecological projects are important. And first of all, which is even more important, how we can help those ones who've been affected by this catastrophe, although it was almost 30 years already past this time, but the tragedy, the problems are still there. People are displaced. There are huge hole in Ukrainian, in the fabric of Ukrainian territory, in the fabric of Ukrainian society. So how to deal with that? The illnesses that going on in the families, in the children. So that's where I believe the most of efforts should be directed right now. Chernobyl, Syria was not shot in Ukraine. It was shot in Latvia. Even for the movie crew to go there and do a really historic, accurate.
Okay, our next question comes in from Facebook, from Mariana Kuznetsova. Does the agreement foresee closer cooperation between Ukraine and the United Kingdom in the sphere of IT technologies and services?
Hello?
Ambassador, did you hear? We have one question from Facebook. Does the agreement foresee closer cooperation between Ukraine and the UK in the sphere of IT technologies and services?
Yes, we have in our agreement, as I mentioned before, the agreement is covering not just merchandise trade, which is, by the way, very limited in items. We have to work on it, but that's a separate issue. This also, we managed to have the most of the focus on the service. I mentioned it before, and that's what we were trying to achieve with this agreement. IT services, IT businesses are cooperating, and if you know, Ukraine is playing quite a significant, I would say, even prominent role in outsourcing of the IT services. We are competing with the India, but they have 1 billion people population. So which means that's showing how well respected and what is the potential of Ukrainian in globally. Talking about the partnership with the Great Britain companies, we observing already for the last 3 years, we're observing that the turnover of the IT services grew by 30%. So by third. If we manage by our new agreement to create better sort of frameworks for these businesses to grow and cooperate, I believe years is not a limit. What we are trying to achieve, and it was discussed by the president already, that some services are needed right away. They are, for example, the supporting even the trade of the London Stock Exchange, the fintech. That was the word which been named so many times in the meetings with the mayor of London that it was almost a key word. We can type now the city of London fintech in Ukraine. You will have all the information, all the pieces of the meetings. So this is something which we are going to do. That's why our governor of National Bank came and also signed a very important agreement between with one of which are running the money and information services same. And this is something which we'll be building with the stock exchange. We will rebuild on a new level, which is not the stock exchange we used to see the floor and the crazy people shouting and messages by their hands. But now it will be online with the help and support of the IT services which we can provide from Ukraine.
Our next question is from David Austin.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Good evening, yes. I'm a long-time resident of Kharkiv and consider myself almost to be as much Ukrainian as I am English these days. But nonetheless, I'm very interested to sort of get a picture of what you expect inward investment into the Ukraine from UK will sort of take the form of in coming years. I mean, I have looked as much as I can at the trade deal that's discussions that have taken place, but how much substance can you see in that in the next few years in terms of businesses, business development, manufacturing, construction?
Thank you very much. Some of the things I already touched upon. Some of the the 2 ports which I mentioned right at the beginning of our conversations. I'm not sure whether they heard this part, but Ukraine is missing major infrastructural things like ports, for example, from our Navy. Everything we had, ships included, were seized by Russians. Now our military ships are staying in Odessa in commercial port. So we will have two ports built. One is in the Black Sea, another in the Sea of Azov. So this is the great infrastructure project, which will be started from the scratch. And I hope that your company will have the local Ukrainian partners, both in providing the construction materials, building, construction, and everything. On top of purely military part, we also will be rebuilding with cooperating with the companies, the commercial ports. Some of them will be operated, hopefully, by the companies. We already started talking with the companies like Hutchinson Ports, for example. On other things, like it was not discussed widely this time, but in preparation to the visit, we touched upon, for example, the space program and space cooperation. The memorandum between two space agencies is already in works in the embassy, and we're trying to organize two agencies to meet and discuss the possibilities of building here on the United Kingdom soil the spaceport, which will be taking advantage of Ukrainian rockets, the space rockets, Zenith, we will see, and how a Cyclone, we'll see how it will work. At least 2 British companies which are now producing one called Skyrora, which is working with these micro rockets, which is very, this now a hype in the space exploration, and even the moon rover. They are now building the first UK moon rover. Most of the people working from Dnipro, from this big still having and using right now in cooperating with, for example, with the United States. So it's not theoretical, it's very much here with us, but I believe that there are some we'll be able to discuss and develop. Thank you.
Our next question is from Olya Yushchenko.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. I was working in the parliament of Ukraine during Yanukovych. I was working on the project with China. So we all know that between the time when the countries signed MOU and countries signed the proper contracts may take a few years. How long do you think, in your opinion, it will take to sign a proper contract between the United Kingdom and Ukraine to start implementing the MOU signed last week? Thank you very much.
That's a great question. And this is the part where we have with our British colleague work hand by hand. So the agreement with UKF, which was signed, they are showing the readiness to start immediately, right away. So they will guarantee 2.5 billion is allocated for Ukraine. They will use their capabilities in finding this money within the banks. We still have to do a couple of things, which is obviously the technical stuff needed, but at least Minister of Defense signing this memorandum, already taking the next steps. And the next step, and I had this opportunity to work with the companies who will come to Ukraine. We just, as embassy, providing them visas. And I was just happy to kick them off the Great Britain territory to Ukraine. They promised me to come to Odessa and to Charkiv and on the Azov Sea next week. So I hope that we will start as soon as next week. Some of the things like the strategic partnership, this Greek treaty, will come in effect as soon as our parliaments will be able to ratify it. Still, this some job to be done, but I don't believe that it will take more than by the end of this year. Doesn't mean that we will waste this time and we won't promote the cooperation between companies, one company to another, and now ministries of defense. I'm expecting the Minister of Defense to come back to London in the months. At least already we agreed with them at this time. I hope that British team will already get back from Ukraine with the something on the blueprints already. So all I hope that we will be able to report by the end of this year what's already been done, what sort of money been allocated, what sort of money already reached Ukrainian banks, and how we start working on them. I'm pretty happy that this work will be controlled and observed and guaranteed by the UK government. So the problem which we've been having, how wisely we are using money, is not an issue here. And we already agreed with our colleagues that both ministries, for example, of foreign affairs, will observe, and through this Commission of Strategic Partnership will be able to monitor how the projects are done, how fast they're moving, and what sort of resources needed to be allocated, not just money, but people, effort, and political will as well. I hope that this conversation between two groups of funds, and they already finding where we can actually agree on so many important things to be, for example, with this Kiev City project. This is great on paper. I believe it will be even better on TV, but how to make it a reality, this is something which I hope that when we meet next time, hopefully again without the TV link, but if it is so, we will be able to report. So let's for example, some aim at the end of the year, at the beginning of next, to have the same conversation, and I will be able to report to you what's been already done and what we are still missing. Thank you.
Okay, next we have a question about visas from Oksana Bristow.
Hello.
Oksana, are you able to ask your question, please?
Oh,
Your microphone is on, we can hear you.
okay. Hi there, everyone. Great event. And very quickly, could you please inform us what is going to be the status of British citizens visiting Ukraine and vice versa, if there was any agreement with regards to the ease of obtaining visas and for business and leisure visits between two countries? Thank you very much.
Thank you. The visas are always a quite painful issue, painful question. Sometimes it is painful for both nations, sometimes it's painful just for one. I would be happy to redirect your question to our friends and colleagues, but I will also take my part in that. You know that Great Britain was benefiting from a visa-free regime from Ukrainian side towards the whole European Union, the Schengen zone. As Great Britain is leaving European Union, we were discussing whether the same regime will be preserved for UK. As of now, we managed to have it been extended for 1 year only, which means that this year you are covered as a Great Britain citizens. Then this is small, just you know, slight hint to our Great British colleagues how we can promote better understanding and better cooperation in actually discussing the issue how Ukrainians can come here without that hassles which been you know, actually it's a pain in one particular place to get visa. Even myself as ambassador, it took me quite a while, and by the end of the days my wife didn't get it. So this is the issue which we still have to work on. I hope that the meeting between Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine, Mr. Avakov, who came here and met with his colleague, conversation was good, was professional. We started this conversation between our bigger teams, the whole one sentence in 800 pages that the sides are recognizing the importance of migration discussion and will really waiting until this will happens. We managed to bring Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine. They discussed a couple of things which are very important and crucial for this decision, which will be probably and hopefully taken. One is we agreed that we will bring from here the group see and check and understand how Ukrainian system of biometric passports working, how it is verifying the people obtaining this passport, how strict the regulations are. I do believe as a part of foreign affairs, and we are taking part in this process, I do believe that process is very strict, but I will leave our British colleagues to come and see and check. Then we will see and discuss how the cooperation between authorities is, how strong the ties are. If anything happens, how quick the reaction could be. And by the end of the days, I hope that this cooperation between two ministries and policing forces and bodyguards will allow us to make this step and ease the visa regime for Ukrainians. At the moment, we're asking for the couple of steps, and these steps could be, for example, to find and separate the groups of people, like I don't know, journalists, the religious activists, the businessmen, students. So these groups, instead of resolving the whole issue, big one, which is sometimes painful for internal politics, before with many nations and, for example, with European Union, we will separate the groups of people which will be easier we'll find the sort of directions where it will be easier to achieve results and report to our own respective nations. Like, for example, we went with the United States, with also quite strict regime for 10 years visa. So what happens in reality when you obtain Ukrainian passport, international passport, you have passport for 10 years, and then you can obtain the 10 years visa from the United States if you want to go to the United States. So in reality, that's almost visa-free regime, because multiple visa for the whole duration of the passport. At least as of now, what I wanted from the Great Britain, that the rules are observed. So this waiting period is limited. And if a decision is taken that somebody can come, they can actually come. So that's the three major rules, and we are working right now. I'm happy to report to Ukrainians and to Great Britain citizens that we have understanding between each other, and we just finding the better solutions. It will take some time. This has always been quite a difficult process, but we are moving there. Thank you.
Okay, we have a question from Facebook. Someone is asking where they can read the text of the trade agreement that was signed last week.
What in reality, what is happening here, that as soon as parliamentarians ratify both parliaments, because the text is seriously huge. If you've seen the video reports of Prime Minister and President signing, you've seen the Ukrainian stock was like big, I don't know, 20 centimeters thick, and the Great British was thinner, which actually doesn't mean anything. That's the same text, but the paper was differently printed on both sides. So what we have to do right now, this all 800 plus pages to be checked and rechecked. Proper translation have to be rechecked again, and then both parliaments will ratify it. As soon as it's there, we will, and I hope that the same will be done here. Lord Risby will probably correct me if I'm wrong, that then you will be able to find it on the websites of the respective parliaments.
Our next question comes from Dennis Ugrin.
Hello, Ambassador. Welcome to the UK, and welcome from Ukrainian Plus in the UK and from the Ukrainian Medical Association too. Now, what I wanted to ask you is, when you leave the UK in a few years' time, when you look back at your tenure here, what would tell you that it was a success? How would you define your success?
Thank you. That's a very good question. I was not planning yet to leave UK, although that this is my second tenure in different nations, and I've never been able to stay there longer than 4 years. The UK land will be much more hospitable, and I'll be able to stay here longer because my family is. I don't know. I'm still in office each and every day, so I don't know what the UK look like. But this is the person. Some people tend to count by the trade turnover, for example, which is wrong, but it gives you some numbers. Now we have 2.5 billion US dollars. If we manage to bring it up to 10 billion, this will be something to report and write in my memoirs if I ever write them. But if I manage to lift the visa barrier, that will be very interesting for us. If we manage to get closer in political and military sphere, this is probably even more important. We are now trying to find the place for Ukraine, and you know there are very difficult situation. First of all, with Russian Federation, and then where is actually the end of the European big space, not just European Union per se, but what is West with the big letter W. If the partnership of Ukraine and Great Britain will grow to the extent of strategic, which we are planning now documents, all of us will see, and that will be enough for me to be able to wrap up here and then live somewhere else, hopefully to Ukraine back. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Harold Binder.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I have a question and a wish. The question is about Ukraine's position in the world. We always speak about, with good reasons, about politics and economy. What does Ukraine, for example, here, what would you want to do to raise the knowledge and awareness of the country in the world, in the community? Just today, I spoke to a lady and I spoke about Ukraine, and then she said, yes, I was always really interested in Russian culture. So how do we work with this soft power of culture, of presence in the world? And what is your strategy? My wish is, would it be a good idea to get together all those people in the UK who in some way or the other work for Ukraine? I'm, for example, in the cultural sphere. I'm one of the probably biggest investors in science and culture in your country. And I'd love to get to know others who are also dedicated to Ukraine. So could the embassy have play some active role in bringing people together? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not against Russian culture as it is. I'm very happy to people to understand and know Russian culture, and most of them to understand where Russian culture, where Ukrainian culture, and when and where Russian culture actually started with and from. I just read today, as yourself, I read today the article about Ukraine that we are now fighting with Russian about the borscht, which is extremely important in our culture. That's the beetroot soup everybody is so happy about. I know that we are fighting with Poles, but Russians, that's something new. Now they claim borscht after they claim in the Crimea. On working on the culture, you probably know the background of my president and the first lady. These people are more than ready to promote the cultural product. We had the chance to discuss as the tour guide in Ukrainian, which you here never had before. You had in Russian language, in some of the museum, nothing in Ukrainian. On the other hand, I'm not sure that we have in many Ukrainian museums the audio guides which will allow English-speaking people to better understand the culture and what actually they see, which embassy will be happy to work with our limited resources. First of all, I have at least 2 people working on cultural connections, the educational connections, the science. We will be able to promote culture here, Ukrainian movie, Ukrainian music. I see the same process. It probably will be funny to have, for example, Netflix officially established in Ukraine. Will market be officially established in Ukraine. So there is still a long way to go, and there are so many things to do right now. Create here the platform in the embassy where people of culture, people of science, people of sport. Yes, we are very open to it. You can find all our contacts on our website. Please and we will try to establish these connections. Thank you.
We have an excellent question that's come in from our Facebook page. Olga Asma writes, when will we see ads enticing British people to choose Ukraine as their next holiday destination? With all the budget airlines flying from Manchester and London, isn't it time to advertise going to Kiev and Lviv for the weekend? After the pandemic ends, of course.
Sorry, I don't know how my colleagues, but I missed half of the question.
The question is, how can we better promote Ukraine as a holiday destination with all of the direct flights going from the UK to Ukraine?
Thank you. I understand that you were asking about this holiday destination. I'm here actually, my sole responsibility is promote such a way the tourists to Ukraine is something. At the same time, I would be happy to promote both UK as the Ukraine as destination for the citizens of UK. How which we will have to find the very simple answer to complex problem. The solution about what people know here about Ukraine is more or less borscht and then Russian aggression, things like that. Not very easy to bring people to attract that. If you look at Ukraine from the point of view of tourist destination, you in Carpathia, snow and skiing, all the way to subtropical zones in Black Sea, Crimea included. We are trying to be more wiser in spending our resources in promoting it, embassy and from our agencies, tourist agencies, to promote here, to pour more money in the products, which will allow people to find the place. But you, as you rightly mentioned, that's not the best time to promote tourism per se. We still have to find the answer collectively, all of us, how we deal with COVID. And unfortunately, Ukraine is now in top 10 nations. The number of the deaths and the number of COVID infected people is growing. We are not on the level of Great Britain, but you have bigger population right now. But there are these very alarming tendencies we have to find right now. So please be patient and understand that as of now, all of us, the governments, are preoccupied with coronavirus. At the same time, planning for better times. We are doing in Ukraine, what we're missing in Ukraine too is the cheaper airlines. We are building the airlines right now. That's the big commercial secret, but we are talking to Virgin Airlines as well here. So we are trying. Please help us. The creative ideas, that's what we need right now. Thank you.
We have one final question that comes from Joyce Glasser.
Oh, do you hear me?
Now here.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. This might seem like a naive question, but I've just been reading Timothy Snyder, and that might explain it. What can an ordinary person living here in the UK do to help the Ukraine stay free, since it's managed to sort of get free? Reading the history of the 20th century, we know that in any form, the Soviet Union or Russia, whatever you call it, remains a threat and has never really relinquished its aim of taking over the Baltic republics and the Ukraine, etc. Is there anything that the ordinary people can do?
By recognizing our independence, one of the first ones as a nation, some 30 years ago, you made a huge step as a whole nation, as your government and as your people. By helping Ukraine right now, that's what we're looking right now is the mutually beneficial projects. We grew enough, matured enough as a nation to understand that expecting special treatment from the rest of the world, you can have it as your childish nation in a couple of years from your rebirth, birth, whatever. And there are so many nations popping up here and there. We also understand that our geographical and historical situation is such that we've been always having, and we will have people who will look at us and will still have their plans because of the fertile soil, because of the rich agriculture, because of the particular location between warm seas and on the path to China. We understand that's the reality. What we've been missing as a statehood over our history to create something which we finally managed for the 30 years to have it right now. It's hundreds and hundreds of years And we also can count hundreds since the Kievan Rus, but then this line was cut, and we here and there we tried to regain our independence and our statehood, understanding of the nations, and we failed. So if you can help us to go the way which we chartered ourselves, nobody was pulling us to West, nobody was luring us. That's a decision of the Ukrainians, and it's been here. We wanted to be part of the bigger West because we share these ideas. We do believe that that's the way as a civilization we can develop, and that this development will be successful. Nothing we can do with our neighbors, they're still there, but there's just hope. There is a hope that finally, after all these years, they will understand that there are better ways than just to kill people. They killed already 13,000 people in Ukraine just to prove their point that we are not leaving them. This divorce was so painful after all these years that they still have this grudge, that this divorce probably, that's the very good way to describe it. So by having the project, having recognized us as the partner, that's everything I would ask from you as the UK citizens, as from your government. Then we can build up upon this. Thank you.
Ambassador, thank you very much. I'm going to call on Catherine Meyer to speak now to propose a vote of thanks, but may I also warmly thank you for an outstanding discussion and your comprehensive knowledge of the subject, which shows your professionalism superbly. So, Catherine, over to you.
Well, I would also like to thank His Excellency, the Ambassador Prystaiko, for his interesting presentation and for answering all the questions, so many varied questions, and you've answered them brilliantly. I, of course, also want to thank Lord Risby, who forgot to tell you that we knew each other from our days at Merrill Lynch many moons ago, though, of course, he's a little bit older than me.
Oh.
And I would also like to thank the British Ukrainian Society for organizing this very, very interesting event. But let me say one thing immediately, is that the UK stands foursquare behind Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. It is on this very firm basis that my government, and hopefully all of us here, will seek to broaden our ties between the two countries. And that goes certainly for me, as the newly appointed Prime Minister's trade envoy to the Ukraine. I was only appointed a few days ago, just before your President Zelenskyy, came to London. So it was a great honor to meet him and a great honor for me to take on this new post. I have to tell you that I feel very optimistic about the new political, free trade and strategic partnership agreement that was signed between our two countries. I think there is a huge mutually beneficial opportunities for us to be exploited in so many areas: energy, agriculture, aviation, defense. We talked about it today. Not forgetting, of course, we can export Scotch whiskey to the Ukraine, and maybe even English sparkling wine, which I have to tell you, as a half French person, is nearly as good or even as good as the best French champagne. So together, I hope we're going to do a lot of things. I am with our common values, our common interests, and I am very honored to be here to be your trade envoy. And I will apply myself and all my energy to make this a better relationship going forward between our two countries. I think we can do a lot of things together. So thank you very much, Ambassador. And I look forward to working with you and your team to make it all look best.
Well, thank you again, both of you, Catherine, indeed, and to the Ambassador. There were 250 important reasons for the event this evening, because this was a record attendance, and it was certainly utterly worthwhile for all of us who had the privilege of hearing you speak, Your Excellency. So thank you again, and we much look forward to seeing more of you in the weeks and months to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.